Welcome to Beyond the Riverwalk, the local weekly podcast that brings San Antonio's most remarkable people, places, and events directly to you. All links discussed will be in the show notes, so sit back, relax, and join Kevin and Melissa Barron as they ask the questions that you would. Now, let's get the conversation started.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to Beyond the Riverwalk. This is Kevin, and joining me is...
his wife, Melissa.
Again, she keeps saying that to remind me. 25 years, people.
Yes.
We've been married 25 years.
Together, 26.
Yeah, it's crazy. But we have a special guest today that we've been looking forward to talking to. One of the first places we went when we moved to San Antonio was the Briscoe Museum of Western Art. And when we started doing the podcast again, we really wanted to try to get that connection made. So joining us at this very moment is Meredith Balzen with the Briscoe Western Art Museum. So Meredith, you there?
Hi, yes, I'm here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, we are excited to do this. There's so much stuff that you guys do, and we've been there quite a few times. We're lurkers as well as just fans.
Lurkers.
So we've been, last year we went to the Day of the Cowboy, and we're looking forward to doing that again. But I guess before we get way too into it, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into doing this, and a little bit about the Briscoe?
Sure. So I am born and raised in San Antonio, and I graduated from Alamo Heights High School and went up to Texas Tech University majoring in agricultural communications, which is a little different. But after I graduated from there, I worked for the San Antonio Stock Show Radio for 4 years in their marketing department. And recently I made a change in careers and am now with the Briscoe and have been there since December. So I'm so excited to be on board with our amazing team and to be working directly with our Vice President, Liz Jackson, and our President and CEO, Dr. Duchesne. So we've got some really, really big things on our horizon, and I'm just happy that I got to jump on board when I did.
I think it must be a great opportunity, especially, knowing the area like you do and having been involved in, a huge event. The Stock Show Rodeo is gigantic. So I'm sure you made a ton of contacts, and that probably helps here too. So what is the history of the Briscoe? What is it and where is it? And that kind of thing to kind of get us on some firm footing before we move on.
Sure. So the Briscoe was the very first public library in San Antonio. It's located downtown on the Riverwalk. It's right across the river from La Vita, and you can see the Arneson Theater from where you are at the Briscoe. So you can kind of picture yourself there. So back to the first public library, our architecture is very, very library-esque. We still have quotes, Shakespeare quotes in different places where it still says public library, which is kind of neat. So since then, we were the Hertzberg Museum. A prominent lawyer and socialite in San Antonio donated his circus collection and a couple other documents to the public library. And since the library moved to the location that they are now, they decided to house the circus collection within the Briscoe walls. So it was the Hertzberg Circus Museum for a few years, which I never had the opportunity to see, but I've heard tons and tons of people who have come through the museum now that thought it was kind of crazy, but cool to see. So, and now that collection is over at the Whitty Museum. But after the collection went to a different museum, the building sat for a few years until our team decided to launch this Briscoe Western Art Museum, named after Governor Adolph Briscoe, who is one of the founding members. But in addition to the museum, we also have a special events facility called the Jack Gunther Pavilion, named, of course, after Jack Gunther, who has seen this project go through. But Lake Flato was the one who designed our Jack Gunther Pavilion, and that opened before the Briscoe Western Art Museum. And so the Briscoe has only been open for about 5 years now. And so we're a fairly new museum, but we've got prime location in downtown San Antonio. So we're really set up for an awesome future.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got an interest in anything, to me, anything San Antonio, but also just anything Western. My dad was born in Dripping Springs, Texas, and lives in New Orleans now. So he brings anything he can back with him to New Orleans from Texas, including his attitude and everything else. So when we visit there, I mean, you guys have this amazing collection of spurs. You've got paintings that are just amazing. You've got the sculptures, the replicas of the Wells Fargo stagecoach.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's something for everybody. So how did that collection get put together? Was it put together by someone, or various different collectors and donated when the museum opened, or did you guys have to assemble all that?
Sure. So I can't speak too much to it just because I have not been at Briscoe for very long, but I know that Jack Gunther has an inaugural part in establishing our collection, and he's still very, very involved today, which we're very blessed. We have quite a few things from the Red McCombs collection and a few of our own. So we've truly got something for everybody, from, like you said, the spurs and the saddles. We have Santa Anna's sword, which is really, really neat. That's one of our highlights. We have a saddle from Pancho Villa and Roy Rogers. And we have, art paintings that are really old and some that are very new. We have Remingtons that date back forever. And then we have a Martin Greeley that he's one of the hottest Western artists right now. So we've got truly something for everybody. And I don't know if right now is the best time to talk about our new contemporary works from the Booth Museum into the new West exhibition, but it just opened on Friday. Our president and CEO was the one who curated the show with help from Seth Hopkins, who's the director of the Booth Museum, which is where a lot of the works came from. I think 70 or so. So they worked together on creating kind of the theme and what this exhibition is all about. So Michael, Dr. Duchemin, really honed in on the fact that in the 60s, things were kind of changing big time, So John F. Kennedy gave his speech, and people really rallied around the spirit of the West, and art markets reflected that traditional Western art kind of was on the uptick. And then in 63, when John F. Kennedy was assassinated, it kind of threw us all into this crazy new age countercultures developing, the youth and their parents not really seeing eye to eye. So this contemporary works has kind of stemmed from that. And when you see the exhibition, it's separated into different themes and styles, actually two different things. So the themes are more of feminism and beyond the West and, different things like environmentalism. So it's very thematic in that way. And it's really neat because the exhibition is set up into little pockets and each has the theme over them. So when you go in, there's maybe 7 or 8 pieces in there that you identify with being a feminist piece or being a environmentalist type of thing. So that's the first lens you look into it. The second lens is that we have chosen different works that people can identify with to help educate a little bit about the different styles of work each of the pieces are. So there's a ginormous snake in one of the exhibition, or in one of the pockets. I believe it's under environmental. And we talk about how that's photorealism because it's a painting, but it looks so real. So there's 2 different lenses you can look at this new show in. And I really believe that there's something for everybody in this. It's got, cowboys, traditional Old West stuff, but kind of looking it into a new light. And I think that's what Dr. Duchemin was trying to hit home with it is a Western exhibition, but it's contemporary work. So it's something for everybody.
Well, the only preview I guess we've gotten so far is looking at the app. You guys have a great app that has, basically, I mean, it's like tours. It's got history of the building. It's got some really neat stuff, and I'm looking right now at the sections that's talking about the new exhibit, and that's some really striking stuff. I mean, there's one, and I can't say I'm familiar with the artist, but it's Chuck Middlecoff.
Yeah.
It's called All American Paperback Writer. And I mean, it's just, I'm thinking of Memorial Day. It's, it's Stars and Stripes and looks like a rodeo rider, and it's got a Coca-Cola can in it. I mean, it thinks like it's like pop art.
Americana.
Yeah. I mean, it's really neat. And then, if you just keep going on this, you see the Billy Shank stuff that is just a completely different style. So how are you guys publicizing? I know there was a preview party recently. How are you getting this out to the folks that are interested or don't even know they're probably going to be with schools and other organizations? How do you guys connect with the community?
Sure. So I think that our strength with that is that we have a lot of programs that are going to be in conjunction with this exhibition, which is very exciting. Even opening weekend, we're jam-packed with a gallery talk and a film series, but each month and each couple weeks we'll have something that associates with it. So next month we will have, our film series that's going, and I think it's Smoke Signals is the next one that we'll be showing, but the one after that is Thelma and Louise, which is an amazing movie, and it kind of goes back to the thing that I was talking about within our New West exhibition. But we're just kind of trying to get people out with our programs because we know we want to give something fun to do and museum while they're there. So, and now that it's summertime, we've given something a little bit more to the kids. We're having our little partners June 18th through the 20th, and it'll be in conjunction with our Into the New West exhibition as well. So we'll do some fun activities for the kiddos and their parents, and kind of teach them a little bit about this different style of Western art. So we're slowly getting the word out there, and the Briscoe is just so brand new. So it's fun being one of the first places in San Antonio that has brought something like this before. I mean, we're the Western art people at the Briscoe, and we've never brought contemporary art. I mean, Billy Shank and Andy Warhol last year were similar, but this kind of goes beyond that. We have Shank in our show too, but it goes beyond just the traditional, the Western art images, and of course, there's even more to see. So it's really exciting.
Well, I'm checking out based on what you're saying about the events coming up, in the app. I'm advertising the app here, but it's a really good app. The app has an event calendar on it. And the day we're doing this, there's a gallery talk. And then the summer film series you mentioned, those are coming up. There's a Briscoe book club. What is that about?
Back to when I was talking a little bit more about how we were the first public library. We still have a library in the Briscoe called the Cammon Library Portal. And when we signed our lease, we made an agreement that we would include the library within the museum still, which is kind of neat. So what better than to do a book club? So the first book in that is The Lone Ranger and Tonto Fist Fight in Heaven. And if you know anything about the Lone Ranger and Tonto, it's going to be a good book. And I haven't had the chance to read it just yet, but we have a Facebook group that kind of keeps everyone involved in answering questions, and we welcome anyone to go find us on Facebook and join that group and come out. And when we have the book club meetings, they're free. So anybody can come. They're on Tuesdays. The first one's on June 4th. And we'll have wine and cheese and discuss the book. And I think it's going to be a really fun program. I'm excited about that one.
Yeah, and it says it's free to participate. So, I mean, you can't beat that either.
I'm going to start reading Westerns now, aren't I?
Yeah, you have to start reading Westerns. That's right. Or just different things. I mean, the one of the films you talked about is Smoke Signals, and I remember seeing that. I remember seeing that in the past. And then, like you talked about, or somebody, maybe it was me, I mentioned the National Day of the Cowboy. I thought that was the neatest thing when I heard of it last year. We went, and they had one of our favorite, local / Austin bands
Big Cedar Fever.
Yeah, they were playing.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you had the Chuck Wagon out there, and there were all kind of things for kids to do. And they were printing posters like the old style of block printed, I guess, concert type posters you've seen. I mean, there's just so much stuff that I wouldn't associate.
Make your own brand.
Yeah, make your own brand. You register your own brand. With the two guys that were there were great. Looked like real cowboys. I mean, they looked like they just came right off the range there with their outfits, and they were great. And my daughter loved it. I mean, we just had a ball. But that's coming up, and that's on July 27th. So yeah, toward the end of July is that one, and then between now and then there's tons of things. So how long does the new exhibit run? Because it's open now.
It's open now until September 1st.
Okay, so yeah, it's pretty limited.
All summer to see it.
Yeah, it's all summer.
You can come back multiple times.
Yeah,
I think we will.
But yeah, it's still a limited time though. People need to check it out while they have an opportunity. And if people are listening and they're not exactly sure, if you've been on the Riverwalk, you've taken the Go Rio cruise tours. If you've seen the giant statues, and I can't think of what they're called, it was mentioned in the app and it's slipping my mind. But there's the giant, like a cattle drive, going up the bank of the river toward the Briscoe Museum. That's where you guys are located, and it's a beautiful setting, and the buildings themselves, like you said, inside and out, it's a great place to be. So I would definitely recommend checking the place out when you get an opportunity. And the parking is right across the street too, if I remember right. There's a garage right over there. So parking downtown is always a nightmare, but getting to you guys isn't bad at all.
No, it's not. And I thought the same thing before we started looking to the Briscoe, that downtown was going to be intimidating. But honestly, it's right across the street. So you can't miss the Briscoe if you park at the Riverbend parking garage. Yeah,
you got it. So what about the sculpture garden? Because that's where a lot of the Day of the Cowboy events were last year. I guess it's right next to the pavilion. So you've got the old library building, got the pavilion, and I think the sculpture garden is like a little bit more toward toward the convention center, I guess, that direction. So what is that? How is that set up? And is that a relatively new addition?
We've had the sculpture garden for a few years, but we always love when people come through to visit it. It's actually open when we don't have private events. It's open to the public to walk through and to check it out. And it's really I will say our facilities team did a fantastic job landscaping everything in there, because I went a few days ago to take some photos, and one of the bronzes is in this like thicket of greenery, and it's like a cattle drive scene, and they planted cactus at the best spot. So it looks like actual cows, actual longhorns kneeling down about to get the cactus out of the way. So it's really beautiful, and it's fun to come by and spend some time, especially before it gets too hot, to come by the sculpture garden. And truly there's something for everybody in there. Like I said, there's a cattle drive scene, and then there's a really fun one of a cowboy playing his fiddle with his dog, and it's some fantastic work. And actually, now that you mentioned the sculpture garden, we are going to be working, the Alamo and the Briscoe are working on a project, I think, in the future that is going to be a sculpture trail that's going to go between the Alamo and the Briscoe Western Art Museum. And actually, Jack Gunther was one of the ones who was inaugural to this project. But as you've probably seen in the news recently, the Alamo has put some more bronzes out front, but eventually they're going to lead towards the Briscoe and vice versa. So we're really excited about that one. I'm not quite sure on plans how long that's going to be, but it's going to be one of these days, and it's going to be awesome.
We've seen those on television. We haven't gotten back down to the Alamo to see, but they look like they're life size, if not sometimes bigger. So there's going to be a ton of new stuff going on. Do you think if you've been to the Alamo, you've been, but you really haven't? I mean, there's always something changing. And same thing with you guys. I pulled the app up because, the app is great. And it's called, everybody's going to be the running gag, I guess.
Yeah, the app is great.
But the big bronze, the statues off the river, coming off the river. I'm just so impressed by that, because the first time we saw it, we were like, well, we got to go check out, what is this building?
Right.
And it's called Camino de Galvez. and it's by T.D. Kelsey, it looks like. But there's just some great information in there and a lot of stuff to see. So what's been your impression since you've been there now? You've been there since December. What's your impression of how people respond to the place?
So I've learned a lot very quickly about the art world, which I can attribute that 100% to my coworkers, and I'm very grateful for their patience. But it's so fun to get to talk to people coming through the museum. They all have different stories. A lot of people are visiting from out of town. They just kind of happened upon us. So it's always fun to hear what brought them in and where they're from and why they're there. And they always are just kind of looking for something to do. So normally I'll catch them before they go up and see everything. And then when they come back down, more than half of the time, they're just in awe. And it's so fun to see that with the people that you're interacting with, that your museum and your coworkers and the people that you work with work so hard to make this such a great, not only a beautiful place to come, but an informative place to come too. And I feel like the people and the visitors who go through really get that. And it's so fun to see because we work really hard for them to have that experience, and then they do. And it's just exciting. And not only that, but the programs that we've been having have been really neat to see too, because everyone has seemed so pleased with everything we've offered them. And we're trying to offer more, and we would love more and more field trips to come. We're just kind of a new museum, so the word isn't quite out yet, but that's going to be one of our goals moving forward into our next physical year and the next 5 years is try to get as many kids to come through the museum as possible, because, I mean, we've got upstairs, you've probably seen it, but we have an Alamo diorama that you can really look at, and you can think about it relative to San Antonio and where you are standing at the very moment. So I think that's something kids really, I encourage teachers to bring to come see. And I think that they would understand the Battle of the Alamo a lot more if they came and saw a little diorama. It's not little, it's actually quite big, but that's one of our goals, is to try to get more kids and more tours to come to the museum.
Yeah, when we saw the diorama, we kept trying to find the room where Jim Bowie was laying in, like you see in the movie.
Yeah. Old John Wayne.
Yeah.
Well, at least he's the one that did that movie, I guess. But yeah, I mean, what I remember seeing of that diorama was the fact that it was so large. Right. Because, what you see today, and that's part of, I guess, some of the controversy that's been out there about what they're going to do and try to restore things and build a new museum for the Alamo and that kind of thing. But it's just hard to picture without seeing something like that, how big that area was. And the proximity to even the San Fernando Cathedral, and how that was used in terms of signaling, with the Santa Anna's army. It's just an amazing amount of history, and you've got stuff in there that's from that era that kind of brings it to life a little more,
Yes, we do. And that's why it's so fun for kids to come see it, because they identify a little bit with it more seeing it in person than reading about it in a book or hearing a teacher say, or even watching a movie. I mean, it's so fun to see their faces when they come back and see the diorama. And I genuinely love kids' reactions of seeing the sword, St. Anna's sword, because they're in awe of, wait, this was actually his sword, and it's right here in front of me. It's pretty fun to watch.
I was looking on here, if you can guess where, but there's some great info out there on the website as well, and just briscoemuseum.org. And if you go briscoemuseum.org/member, you can do what we did, and that's join last year as members. And I think we actually signed up at one of the events, but
the Day of the Cowboy.
Yeah, so there's a great way to support it, and also get invitations to new things like the new show that just debuted.
Yes.
Yeah, you'll get the first look if you're a member.
Yeah, it was kind of neat when we got it in the mail. It's like, oh my gosh, this is us. We're we're getting a ticket.
And actually,
take a peek at
it's
it.
myself and our daughter who are the members. So Kevin's the extra.
Yeah, I'm the tag along. Unfortunately, it's the way that worked out last year.
Well, the shirts was so cool that you got with the membership.
Oh, geez.
So in addition to being able to go to a museum that I really, really enjoy, and it's it's something for everybody there, you get this really cool shirt.
Yeah, or
at the
whatever
time.
the promotion is. Yeah. And we've got a few little collectible items from the gift shop, which is inside is really nice as well. I have some really cool things in there. So what do you suggest when someone comes to town, or when the podcast goes out to tons of folks? We have a ton of local listeners. What do you suggest when they come for the first time? What should they do, or what should they maybe start with?
So you can either buy tickets online, or our visitor services team is so excellent at customer service, so you can buy them right there on the spot. But we always recommend that you start on the third floor and work your way down. So the third floor is where the spur case and the saddle case, and there are 4 different galleries. So that's probably going to take the most time, is on the third floor. And you just kind of go from room to room. There's no particular order, just because we want guests to choose where they want to go. And then to the second floor, it's a little bit more contemporary art, I guess you could say, relatively speaking to our Into the New West collection. But the second floor, and that's actually one of my favorite floors, because you're so close to the gold ceiling. And if you haven't been to the Briscoe to see the gorgeous gold ceiling, you're really missing out on that one alone. Truly, the architecture is fantastic. So the second floor, and then on the floor level 1, you can go see the women's gallery. We've got some fantastic works. Gladys Rodin, she's fantastic. And there's a few movies about that, and there's a little intro movie. That's where the stagecoach is. And on the first floor of the museum is also our New Works Gallery. And we try to change the New Works Gallery out a few times a year. We just did a change out. So some of the works that have just got put in there will be there for a few months, but you've got to come see that. Just purely based off of the level of expertise these artists have, because it's really cool to see, and it's neat to see it different. But we also have the Klingman Gallery on the first floor, and within the shelving of the Klingman Gallery are different artifacts from different places, ranging everything from a Selena doll, a Selena Barbie doll, which is my favorite thing in there, I think. And then there's some fantastic beading and pottery and basket weaving. So that's a fun little section too. And then on our first floor is also the Campman Library portal. So it takes, depending on how quickly you want to go through, it takes anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and a half. If you want to read every little thing, it might take 2. But yeah, it's definitely a fun afternoon visit or morning visit. There are less people in the morning, so you can take your time more. We don't have a place for you to buy food, but we welcome you to come and hang out by the Riverwalk, and maybe even in the sculpture garden to enjoy a lunch and picnic. And you can definitely make it a fun day downtown, make it worth your time coming and visiting us.
Well, and yeah, like I said, I definitely recommend it. I was down at a conference a few weeks back and had a visitor, 2 guys that I had lunch with afterwards, and one was from Montana and originally from Sweden, I believe, and the other one was from somewhere in the Northeast. I want to say maybe the Boston area, something like that. And I had to get going after lunch, and they said, well, we're going to be here another day. Where should we go? And the first thing that came to mind was the Briscoe. And I was telling them what it was about. And I said, you guys, it's walking distance. Go check it out. We were having lunch at the, I think it was the Omni de la Mansion down there. So it was easy for them to get to. And they just, and the interest was piqued. So I got to connect with them and see what they thought. But that was the first thing that came to my mind. So we really appreciate all the work that you guys do, all the work that goes into pulling together these exhibitions. I'm sure takes a long time and a lot of knowledge. So thank you for doing that.
It's our pleasure. We love it. We love people to come visit us from local Texas, downtown area, everywhere, and across the pond too. I met some ladies who came in from France the other day, so it was really fun to meet them and see what they thought about the cowboys and Western art.
Oh yeah,
Right.
you guys have got to be a hit. From what I've seen, a lot of people from Europe just absolutely love that part of the culture here, in the United States and especially here in Texas. Well,
Yes.
I guess I'll kind of bring us to a wrap up. Just one reminder, I guess. There's an app that's really good. Go out and check that. But
Briscoe app.
the main thing, you can get a lot of information over at Briscoe Museum. I believe it's just briscoemuseum.org, BRISCOE. And again, you can find member stuff. You can find the event stuff. You can find the calendar. Some beautiful pictures, images of the
events.
place and of different displays you guys have. So if you're interested in it, if you've never been, whether you're local or you're not, go check it out. And Melissa and I, Melissa and I, thank you for being part of this, Meredith. We really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for having me. It was so fun to talk to you guys.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to the episode and for listening to the show in general. We've had a great response to a lot of the recent episodes, and we've even seen people listen to ones from way back when we first started the show. So thank you as well for being part of this, and just give us a holler. If you need something, you can find us on all the social media stuff, and you can contact us at podcast@beyondriverwalk.com. So until next time, we'll see you around the Alamo City.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Beyond the Riverwalk. Send your comments, questions, and suggestions to podcast@beyondriverwalk.com. As always, subscriptions to our show are free and available wherever you find podcasts, as well as on our website. Until next week, join us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for more conversations about our community.